Hi and welcome to the Belfry. This is the Brabazon course, the 12th hole. My name is Chris Ryan, and in this video we're talking about the trail leg and hopefully getting you to understand a little bit more about how this should move during your backswing. Just before we get into that video, in the corner of the screen you should have the details for my social media accounts, so if you don't already, then please go ahead and follow me on those. So we are talking in this video specifically about the trail leg, which in my case is my right leg, and we're talking about the idea of whether it should lose flex or whether it should stay flexed during your backswing. Now for me there's a little bit of confusion. There's a sort of group of people who feel that maybe it should stay bent or flexed, and there's another group of people out there who believe that maybe that right leg should lose some flex during the backswing. Personally, I believe that that right leg should lose flex, and in this video we're going to go through exactly why that's the case and how you can allow this to happen in your golf swing. So if I was to stand normally, my pelvis is in its neutral position. Now, if I was to rotate my hips, my right hip would move around more behind me. And I think we'd all be fairly happy that that would be the move that would be fairly natural to most golfers. Now, the difference with the golf swing is that when we are set up and in posture, your pelvis is no longer in that same position. It's now tilted, it's on an angle. So what's going to happen now is that when my pelvis rotates and my hips turn, it's going to be on an angle. It's not going to be on this horizontal angle that we're on before. It's now on this tilted angle. How much is going to depend on the individual golfer, your different heights, different postures, etc., etc. But what we can hopefully agree on is that my hips are going to turn and rotate on an angle. So if that's the case, and we begin our golf swing with some flex in that right knee, and we should do this, my right foot is not going to move in the golf swing. It's not going to move from its starting position. My right hip, however, is going to move. It's going to rotate. So which way is my right hip going to move? Well, it's going to move a little bit more behind me, but because my pelvis is on an angle, it's also going to move a little bit more upwards. So it's going to move on an angle up and behind me. So hopefully what we can all agree on there is that the distance between my right hip and my right foot is going to get greater. That distance is going to increase. Now if that distance is going to increase, surely my right leg has to lose some flex to accommodate that. Now there are certainly ways that we can rotate and keep the flex, but for me that would mean that we have to be sort of starting to sit down a little bit, lose a little bit of height, and we don't really make this good wind-up. So I like to see the right leg certainly lose some flex in the backswing. I certainly wouldn't want it to straighten, but I certainly wouldn't want it to keep the same amount of flex. Now there are examples out there who golfers who do keep the leg flexed. Jim Furyk's a very good example, Jason Day's a very good example, but for me they have very little rotation in the hips. They have generally a little bit more of a higher arm swing, and they are above anything else fantastic athletes and fantastically conditioned to play the game that they are playing. For the majority of golfers that I see coming through the academy, losing a little bit of flex in that right leg, allowing the hips to turn correctly, enables them to get a much bigger turn, much more depth in the arms, much better body motion, and that allows them to deliver the club, for me, a lot more efficiently in the golf swing. So what we're going to do in your golf swing, well, what I want you to think about, I should say, is allowing these hips to rotate on this angle. So I feel as if my right hip is moving a little bit more behind me and a little bit higher. And hopefully that's going to be a relatively natural move, provided you're starting in a pretty athletic position. Certainly if you start with your hips tucked under you a little bit, it's certainly going to be a little bit different because your pelvis is at a different angle. But if we can start to get this good setup, we want the hips to rotate in this fashion here. I would like you to let the leg respond to that. So I don't want you to certainly think that from the setup you're going to straighten that leg. That's certainly not what I want you to do. But I want you to allow your hips to rotate and your leg to respond to that. That's hopefully going to allow you to generate a good amount of rotation in the hips on a good angle. And that in turn is going to allow you to generate a good amount of turn in the upper body. Those two things are going to help you wind the body up better in the backswing and hopefully, as I say, deliver the club a little bit better in the downswing. So for me, my preference would be to see that right leg lose some flex. Depending on the flexibility of the golfer, it might change, but also depending on the length of the swing. If you rotate your hips a little bit more, you're going to need that right leg to lose a little bit more flex. So let me go ahead and hit a shot here. I've got a 3-iron, so not the easiest club to hit because this is a 226-yard par 3. But hopefully what you're going to see is as I get to the top, my right leg will have lost some of its flex. I certainly don't think it'll be straight, but it will hopefully have lost some of the bend it had at address. Just turning over a little bit, but it should catch a little bit at the left-hand side of the green. So I certainly think this idea, this concept can help golfers, because I certainly see golfers coming to the academy who are trying to sort of brace the right leg, if you like, keep the flex, and that can really affect how they move the club to the top of their golf swing, and that can affect things down at impact. So I hope that's helpful to you. If it is, please click the like button, that really does help me. If you've got any comments, please post those in the boxes down below, and I'll do my best to respond to as many as I can. And last thing, if you aren't a subscriber, then please click the link in the description box down below. It's free to access the videos. There's loads on the channel and more being uploaded weekly, so clicking that link, it just means you won't miss any. Thank you again for watching, and hopefully we'll see you back again here soon.